Muy buenas tardes, mi raza. Today is Sunday, September the 15th, 2024, and I am here with another episode of Comadriando aquí con café. Today I have my guest,
Kimberly Argueta, and
Brian Saenz.
and I brought them on the show today because I consider them to be local, real people and celebrities. Okay, I will get into the reason why, but first I want to give the saludos. So, hi mom. I want to say hi to my mom. Is there anybody you want to give saludos to?
oh, well, for me, it's always my team, and they know who they are. So, we're doing it, guys.
I'm gonna piggyback off what she said. Hi, Mom. I'm on TV.
Yes, okay. So the way I know them, Kimberly is, I met her as a script writer. She also is in the meddling of independent film making. She just had a film of her own, I can say. We'll get into that a little bit later, but her guest here, he just starred in a movie called Jump In.
Me. Oh,
Yes. And so yeah, that I've been talking about with the people for a couple of episodes now, because I had Vero from Echo Park here, so yeah, she was in there too and stuff like that. So people that follow know what I'm talking about. He was the one that got jumped in.
Yeah. Let's get them. Let's get some get back.
Yes.
Let's follow up on that.
So I have them both here to talk to you about pretty much script writing and acting. So we're gonna get the mix of both worlds. So we'll start with Kimberly. Tell us, comadre, a ver, who are you? What are you? ¿Qué te dedicas? Tell us everything.
In general. Okay. So, my name is Kimberly Argueta. I am based in the IE. I basically started in school, as anyone, learning the ropes here and there. And then going into film, having obviously networks.
Yes.
That helps a lot. And, when I reference my team, I have, Juan Villegas, who is, a part of a school that, he's learned all this, film lingo, the way that you do the technical side of it. And that's where I, joined in the writing aspect. And so then that's, that cultivated my love for writing, the love for storytelling. And, I got more involved in that. I even shared some tips on a couple things.
I'm trying to work with, I'm working with her, not trying. Yeah. I'm working with her. We're doing it. Yeah, it's just that for people that are watching, I handed over or pitched over a script to her and another person. Yeah. We'll talk with him later, so I won't even name him. Hopefully he'll come on. Yeah. And it's a whole different world. We were told one way and quickly and this and that, and it's just completely different. So now my script has to go and get re-scripted, and that's where she comes in. So it's just one of those things. It's cool. It's amazing to see that there's a format you need to follow. It's not just what you think is good.
And that goes with what you learn along the way. Yeah. Definitely I didn't start with knowing that there's a certain process that you have with story writing. It comes with practice, comes with doing it, what is more efficient for the story that you want to give, because we write for a message, and then if that message is not formatted in the right way, either written or visually, then that ends up it takes up a lot of time to already do a project for you to then not hit the target of what you wanted to do the project on, whether that's the message and the story, So, yeah, it's always a process. And, when I did a couple projects, I've noticed that. And that's when I started doing writing. And then I decided, hey, I've done a couple writing projects already. Why not step up the game and do some directing? And, that's what brought me to this project.
Yeah. So how long overall have you been in this specific field?
Film, in the film world, I have to say 3 or 4 years.
Oh, so not like super long.
No, not too long. Yeah, I think I had originally, because my original role was more acting. I did that. I did theater acting for 8 to 10 years. I did that for a while. So storytelling wasn't new to me.
Yeah.
But the writing it, the filming it, all that technical side was new to me. And that's something that I've learned along the way with, my team, other people that I've worked with, whether that's being an extra or, working on the technical sides, whether that's makeup, whether that's, special effects, that kind of thing. So yeah, with being involved in different projects, you learn, you start getting the lingo, the world, the insights that, are important to that storytelling.
Yeah. So to like somebody watching right now that's interested in getting into this whole scene, do you think that by you having that background in theater has helped you, or is just a learning as you go anyway?
I mean, both things are true. I think they would give you an insight into two different things. But I mean, it all encases into the world of, again, storytelling, of playing out something. Theater is immersive. It brings you into the world, whether that's the set and everything, and it's the same with film. I think it's just the way that you capture that story is different. One's on camera, it's very minimal, it's very in this space. Where the theater, it's like very much bigger. Your interaction, you have to really sell it to the audience that's there live with you, and it's live. You have that time to rehearse,
Yeah.
But I think the good thing about theater is that you learn that discipline, Film is very fast paced.
Yes.
And, which is really good for efficiency, Theater, you have some time to go ahead and build something, but with time, it does give you that realization as an actor that, there's a couple things that I could hit more than in film that I have to do it. I have to think on the spot,
Yeah.
So it depends on the person, how are they able to work best in, So I'm going from theater to film, in theater I learned that discipline, learned that, I was given time to really dive into a character and, learn how the set gets built, how it's this, and you have time on your side, which is good. But then when you get to film, it's, all right, we have a schedule and we have to stick to that. And now everything has to be a lot more efficient because that's time and money, right? So that, I think that's, whether, for the audience, whoever wants to be in that, I guess it's which you prefer, which is something that you really dive into. And, just being involved in projects, you'll learn that really quick, And, part of it is passion for it, I think people realize that theater is one thing, film is another. And, for those who have done both, they realize what's similar and what's not. I think that's very obvious when someone's been doing it for a while. But I'd say to definitely just do what you think you'd like to do, and then never be afraid to change. Try out both, because it really does give you different perspectives, a different way of storytelling. Because oftentimes, film and theater mix too. And that's where we get the musicals. That's where we get creative. Everything is creative. So yeah, definitely just jump in. Get jumped in, yeah. And learn. Just be open to learn. I think that's your biggest key, because once you learn something, you'll see where it comes up in a different area.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Do you find it hard to, like, now this time around you were directing and it's your story? Was it hard to have a cast and have them follow your
vision?
Yes.
So I learned that, again, when you start working in different projects, you start finding people that get your visions really quickly, and others who might have different, maybe they're used to one genre and yours is completely different. So explaining something or a project to someone else, then you have to be open to, am I then being very clear of what my vision is? I think that's half of it, because people always have or try to do something original, but it's always derived of something that they've seen before, right? And the way that they try to explain it to someone else, it's hard because when you're new to explaining, you know, because everyone is already seeing the movie in their head one way. It's, you know, when you write something, it's because you've seen it in your head, right? No one else, there's no audience there.
Yeah.
You know, so you have to explain it really well to someone else who hasn't seen it. You know, it's kind of like when in a classroom when they tell you, oh, write the instructions on how to open a bottle, you know? And then you have to really think about it. You're like, oh, well, you have to grab it, twist, you know?
Yeah.
You never think about it because it's already done in your head. You've done it a lot of times, you know?
Yeah.
And so then, but in that explanation, you see that the more clearer that you are, and you find that you have that process of, okay, I have to do this. If I want that, then I have to go ahead and do this or get that actor or get that set to get to that.
Yeah.
You know, so I even learned myself. For example, I try to do a dinner scene. And I learned, okay, if I want to get this shot, then behind him, I have to do a certain look or do this, because then that fits with this puzzle, you know? So then that's when
little details, huh?
Yeah. So that's where I then step back even to myself. I'm like, okay, if I'm going to explain this, then I have to be very clear what my vision is, you know, and make sure that it's with what I have as well, you know. So it's a whole thing. But going back to your question, I think it helps you a lot to know that, okay, you're working with people now, you know. As a writer, it's very easy to get closed off and just be like, oh yeah, I made the movie.
Yeah.
You know? But then you go ahead and open it up to collaboration. Then you have to be very open that there are different minds that are seeing your movie in their perspective and what they know. And, you know, you have to be open to getting those bits and pieces to then build this whole new world that hasn't existed yet.
Yeah.
You know? And so, because if you close off, then it's no more collaboration, and it already creates a hostile environment for someone, or a misunderstanding. You know, it might not even be hostile. It's just, I don't understand where your vision is at. You know? So I think being very clear, and I learned that along the way, to know, is my communication strong enough for explaining my movie, let alone that gives me insight of how much more I have to be better at communicating for my actors, you know, and hopefully I was. But
no, you weren't. I made it.
He was confused the whole time.
What are we doing?
He's like, is it out yet?
How many cast members did you have for this film?
For this one, I think it was 6. 6, yeah, 4 and 2, yeah.
Yeah.
It was 6.
And how was that? Is this your first film that you directed?
That I directed, yes.
And how was that feeling once you guys were actually there?
The good thing about the way that I casted was that I knew them. I knew them all personally. So I knew how I could speak to them, communicate. And that was a really big help.
Yeah.
Because, you know, there's others where it's just 2 people or 3. And, you know, and to think about 6 cast members, it's like, oh, that's a lot of people. But because I knew them and I had communicated to them before what to expect, and, you know, what their characters was, so that way on the day it was just, you know, let's roll.
Let's go.
You guys know your parts, and if you need further guidance in a little, you know, here and there, then, you know, I can go ahead and explain that there. You know, but no, it was really good. They all really nailed their parts. And because I wrote it for them specifically.
Yeah.
I think that's another half too, that
you know their ways and their style, so
so I write for them.
Okay.
So, yeah. I tend to want to write for their success, you know, to build them up.
Yeah. Aside from this project, they actually have a friendship of their own, so that's why they're comfortable, guys. Just to let you know, it's not like I'm just sitting perfect strangers together that we're just
Brian?
Yeah.
No, he's very uncomfortable.
Oh yeah, you could tell.
The whole time he was avoiding me.
So yeah, just to let you guys know, Brian, the same questions for you. How long have you been in this whole industry, or however you refer to this as?
So I've been in acting since high school. That's where I started off. I started off doing construction, a lot of behind the scenes stuff. My brother was the tech guy. He was behind the scenes. He would do all the lights, building sets. So when it came my time to join high school, he recommended me to the class. He was like, hey, the teacher's cool. It's a cool environment. And I had been going to the shows because he would get free tickets. I would step in there and I would see, wow, like, look at this place. It's different. Everybody's goofing off. Everybody's having fun, you know. So instantly I was drawn to that camaraderie that was in that theater. And I was like, okay, I'm going to sign up for a drama production and I'll follow kind of what you did. You know, I started building the sets. I started doing that. But little by little, they started introducing like little games, little improv games, little acting exercises. And I started to, you know, kind of like, oh, I like this kind of thing. And my teacher, he saw something in me and he was like, hey, I'm going to have you the script. You're going to play this part. I'm like, okay. So I got my first play. And from there on, I was just like, wow, this is fun. This is amazing. This is dope. And from there on, I just did theater. I was in every play after that for all 4 years. Got to play some great characters. And yeah, so that's why I started in the theater. And then I went into community theater, like kind of locally around Riverside, you know, Marietta, Redlands and stuff like that. Because I'm also from the IE. So I started doing theater communally in the community. And then that's how I met my teacher, my mentor. They were casting for this sailor, half Mexican, half American, in his 20s. And I was like, I might have a good shot at this. Like, I could probably do this. So I saw a posting on Facebook. So I went to it, and then that's how I met my teacher, my mentor for 4 years. I studied with him. I did small theater. A room like this, literally. It was like maybe like a little bit bigger than this, but the audience is like right there. So it was already very intimate. It was very small, and so he would do theater in that room, but he would do it in a film style. Like it wasn't very big or theatrical. He would do like the nitty gritty like dramas and, you know, very intimate stuff. So he would do theater, but then he would also do workshops, film acting workshops. So every Wednesday I'd go to the workshop, study film. He'd teach me like techniques, how to work small, developing character and all that stuff. And then we would do it on the stage. So we would take all the things that we would learn and then we would apply it onto a play, into a stage. Again, keeping it very small, keeping it very subtle. So that's kind of how I got into film acting. And then after that, I met Danny, and then which is also another cast member in this film. And he introduced me to some people in the IE, and then that's how I got jumped in. I guess somebody had fallen off of the role.
Literally jumped in.
Yeah, and that's what Danny says to me all the time. He's like, Brian, you got jumped into the industry. Like
literally.
like literally. Because, somebody had fallen off the role, and I stepped in, and and then from there on, the ball just really got rolling because I started meeting people, I started networking with the people on set, I started getting like even more mentorship from the OGs, from like, you know, Danny De La Paz and OLG and all those guys. So they kind of started to like push me out a little bit too. I owe a lot to Danny. You know, he was very much supporting me and like, oh, hey, you should meet this guy, you should meet this. Yeah, just kind of like branching me out to people. So
that's great. People like that are amazing, huh?
Yes.
Thank you, Danny.
Shout out to Danny. And so that's what it is. You know, I was ready for that role because I had done all the 4 years of training with him. And at some point, the bird's got to leave the nest. You know, like I can't stay there forever. Yeah. So he was like, Brian, I already showed you everything. Get the hell out of here. Like, go out there and see. All it's gonna take is for the right person to see you. Once the right person sees you, then it's skyrocketing, right? So that's how I started. And now I'm doing so jumped in. I did that. It's out on Prime, and now I'm working with Kimberly. Like I said, we met last year at the Elevate conference in Chicano Hollywood, and we found out we're like right next to each other. We're like neighbors. We're literally. Cool. Yeah. She's like 10 minutes away from me. Same thing with Danny. Like we were going out to Marietta to study with my mentor, and then once he walked in, I was like, "Wait, where are you from?" San Bernardino. Oh, you're from San Bernardino too? Oh, you're 10 minutes away. Oh, okay. Then so that's kind of where we started to like it was kind of like a little destiny in a way where it's like. You know, so
I was just gonna say that it was fate.
Yeah. So I started working with Danny. We started like shooting some stuff, and then Danny kind of started working with Kimberly, and then that's kind of how I got with Kimberly, and then now we're just forming this little
dream team.
Yeah, this little crew. Yeah. So that's a brief summary, I guess. Of
these two movies are the only actual movies you've done.
For me, no, I've done a couple other things. I've done a couple other small like independent films. But yeah, Jumped In is like the biggest one. And then this one that's coming out pretty soon with Kimberly. and of a couple other things, a couple other smaller projects in the area and IE and stuff like that. Yeah, but yeah, so roughly I would say like everything that I have shot is either in post production, so it's like gonna come out next year. So then that's a whole process too. It's like you shoot something and it's not gonna come out till the next year. So it's
guys.
So yeah, there's kind of like a wait list. There are stuff that I've shot, but it's just like it's gotta So eventually it will be.
It has to do its whole process, right?
Yeah.
So do you ever think you're gonna want to be a writer? Have you written anything?
I don't know how people do that.
No.
It's like, do you talk to yourself in the room like, hey, like?
Yes, I do.
I hate you.
And then
I hate you.
And someone comes in, and then they're like, "What are you doing?"
Like, I feel like you gotta be a little crazy or something. Like, like to be like. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I could improvise. Like, I could go into a scene and start. Like that's kind of like writing a little bit, I guess. But I need to know like where the character is going, what it's doing, like all that backstory stuff first before I can go into. But I mean. Yeah, no, not a writer. Definitely not a writer. I see myself. I mean, I'm editing this. If I do anything else, it's editing or it's post production stuff like mixing and scoring and sound and stuff like that. So yeah, I think writing, I'm gonna hold off on it until something hits me in the head and like.
or you become crazy.
Yeah, maybe give me some time. Maybe I'll get crazy eventually.
Just get a big mirror and talk to yourself.
Yeah. Honestly, because I don't know how you guys do it. Like, it's just like, what do I say? Like, what? I don't know. But yeah, but mainly acting. That's my ace card. That's what I do. That's my.
That's your forte.
Yeah.
Since Jumped In was your biggest project, the day you went and you seen that there and the room was filled watching you, what was your feeling?
That was bananas. That was definitely crazy. It didn't hit me right. It didn't hit me right then and there. Like it took a day. It took a day or two to like, oh wow, like that was, because I had people, right? And the thing is, I would tell them, oh yeah, I'm just in a movie. Like, yeah, come out and see the play. Like, no big deal, right? Like. But then they go to see it, it's like, Brian, you're the star. Like, you're the
well,
like,
see, that's
the
where
first
I met him on the premiere. Because little note for you guys, my friend was trying to get me in on that movie. Miguel Stroller, the one with the... I went to school with him. So he had talked to Miguel, and he had told him, because I guess they were looking for... In the beginning, the girls in the scene where, I guess, the house, I don't know where.
Oh, okay.
But he ran my picture through him, and he said I didn't have the look, so he didn't want to use me. So I was like, okay, sorry. But yeah, so I knew about that project when it first started. So I was like, oh, okay, cool. So when I seen you, I was like, oh, he's on there. So that's what, remember I told you, can I get a picture with you? So that was real cool. But yeah, like you were autographing shirts and everything. I'm like, man, he's just doing the damn thing.
I didn't get an autograph, by the way.
You didn't ask for an autograph.
Well, be ready.
Okay.
Get one now before he blows up. Then he won't know nobody.
No, that's gonna be $20. That's gonna be. I'm gonna charge you for that. No, but it was fun. It was definitely. It was really cool to have people approach me afterwards. I had a couple guys like who were in prison and come up to me like, "Hey man, you really did good," and it meant a lot for me, especially because like I said in the Q&A, I didn't really grow up in that area or about all that stuff.
Yeah.
And to hear like OGs and like people that really like lived it tell me like, hey, you betrayed us well, was like big for me. It was like,
tell the people what your character was. So I know a lot of people haven't seen it yet, so they can understand, because we're getting into detail and they're probably like, what the hell is this guy talking about?
No, my character, it was about a young man. It's set in the 90s. And it's just this kid that's, having a troubling time in this neighborhood, being himself around these people. And he's kind of 1 foot in, 1 foot out of the gang life. Really uncertain of what he wants to do. And he's kind of gaining in his own way, right? He's getting all these signals, he's getting all these signs to get out of it. But he's just so hard-headed that he just doesn't listen to his advisors, his mentors, all that stuff. So yeah, it's just a story about a kind of coming-of-age story of a young man. It's loosely based on Miguel's story. We kind of made some things more dramatic, but some of the scenarios, some of the scenes did happen in his life. So that was super cool too, to play somebody like somebody tell somebody's story.
Real.
Yeah, it's actual things. So that's what it is. It's about a young man growing up in the 90s and just his trials and tribulations of getting around that time. You know.
And he ends up dead.
No.
He
Not the spoiler.
dies.
Really quick.
I guess you could say that.
Just it's out already, so it's not like we're it's just how was that? Okay, for you being an actor, you know, life and death is hard. You know, you die, like nobody likes it. How did that, like, did it mess with your head at all?
No, I don't think so. For me, that was something that we were developing because the whole script was kind of in development as we were shooting it. There was never really a full like outline script from the get go. So it kind of got to a point where we were like just shooting stuff and we're like, how are we gonna end this? Like again, his character was very like there's only so many signs you could get before before something bad happens.
Yeah.
So that's kind of one of the messages I wanted to get across with it was, listen to those things and don't ignore them. Don't ignore those signs, those signals, those people that care about you. This is what's going to happen if you keep doing that. That's one outcome.
Yeah.
That's very common. Yeah, no, but I mean, yeah, like I told my mom, like, hijo, ¿por qué te mataste? Like this, like, Mom. And I warned her, I was like, Mom, everything's fake, everything's not real. But even my nephews and nieces are like, Brian, like.
They're like, Brian.
Yeah. They're like, Brian.
You know the Tigres del Norte?
Yeah.
The band, whatever. Their first movie that they were in, because you know how they did a few back in their day in the 80s. They took their mom to their premiere because they killed like 2 of them, and the mom was all crying and oh my god, like she was all sad about it. I don't even want to think about it. So yeah, like that's crazy. What'd she say? Why'd they kill you off?
Yeah. Well, no, she was like, ay, mijo, like she just told me like just things like that, but she didn't really question it too much. She understood. Yeah. She understood it too, but she was just like, ay, pero por qué estás haciendo esas cosas? Like, Mom.
Aquí está, Mom. No se preocupe.
Yeah,
Aquí está.
I'm alive.
There you are.
I'm here.
Yes. Okay, so you did actual like classes for 4 years, right? Mm-hmm. The same thing that I asked her. Having background already in that field, do you think you already had an advantage of being around there and like meddling in there? Mm-hmm. Or did you actually take those classes that like helped you more to be a better actor?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was definitely, once I got into that room, I was very theater. I even went to school to try to study theater. But then I ended up just getting out of that and just going onto the actual field and getting practical experience. But yes, I was more on the theater mindset. Like I was over here like, oh, I'm gonna do theater. I might teach it or something later on. Because that's kind of what I saw my teacher in high school. Like I kind of saw him and I was like, oh, this seems cool. I have like home theater and kids and stuff like that. But once I got into that room, it definitely kind of shifted my career a little bit. I was like, okay, I guess I started getting the confidence that I can do film. And he kind of like instilled that into me, like, hey, Brian, you have what it takes. You have that stillness, that look and everything. So we kind of just started to get more into, like I said, film acting. So yeah, it definitely, there was a revolution in my career and my mentality. And okay, I was like, okay, so yeah, no, I was definitely ready. Like once I got that call, like I said, I had 4 years of because that's the other thing too. You can go out to LA and not have any experience, not have any training, and you're just gonna waste your time.
That's what I was gonna ask you next.
So I wanted to make sure before I got out there, before I started doing these hour drives and all this commuting and all this stuff, I wanted to know I have a toolkit. I had a toolbox that I can pull certain things from. So yeah, I really just worked hard on doing scenes, doing character, picking his brain, and getting my style, finding my strengths, finding my weaknesses. Am I good with physicality? Am I good emotionally? Like all those things, just sharpening tools. Yeah. So we would just be in there like every Wednesday, and and even in the theater too, like kind of like what Kimberly was saying with theater. It gets you ready for film because once that train starts moving, it's not stopping. Like you have to go, right? There is no take two. So it's like it also prepared me in that way of like the pressure's on. So I'm ready for like when they say action, like I'm used to like a crowd being around and watching you and stuff like that. So theater was definitely helpful for me in acting. Because it just also introduced me to the character developing. Because even in theater, like the roles I played were like Pony Boy and like like really deep characters.
Yeah.
So it kind of gave me an introduction to, okay, how do I analyze? What do I bring out of myself for this character and stuff like that. So I learned a lot with that old man.
How do you prepare like that? Okay, like you said, okay, now I know what I need to put in there. Like, how do you get into your character?
Yeah. So for me, it just depends on the role. There's definitely different techniques, different methods is what they call it. Like, there's some people who get like really into it, and but I've always been more of a technical person. I try not and the thing is, you're always experimenting, you're always trying new things. There were some things and jumped in where I did try other different methods, other different things, but it's just a matter of reading it. And that's the other thing too. You read the script before you agree to do it. You analyze it and you say, okay, what can I bring to this character?
Yeah.
Do I see myself in this? So the first decision is reading that script. And if you don't feel like you could bring something there, or then you're just gonna waste your time, and somebody else can do this better, right? So for me, it's always been the script. And with this film, when like Kimberly said, like, how do you know me so well? So she wrote this role with this character, and I was like, man, this is like exactly what I've been wanting to do.
Yeah.
This is exactly what I've been training and what I've been, wanting. I've always wanted a character like this. So for me, it was like automatic, like, oh yes, yeah, like, and it's a good thing too when you read a script and you read it again, you get a different meaning. You start asking questions. Everything's not clear. So it's like that's what draws me to a character, and that's once I can have answers for those questions, then I'm like, okay, then
Yeah. So okay, you guys, like you in specific to you, you're an actor. You got your dream team, like you said. So you're set, but for the person watching, because I have, obviously I'm on YouTube, so I'm everywhere. Everybody has that impression, like, I'm going to Hollywood and I'm gonna be a big actor. What would your advice for them be? Obviously you're close to Hollywood, so it doesn't realistically happen overnight. Like, I'm just gonna go over there and boom, I'm gonna have a start. What would you tell that person that's in Ohio?
I would say stay in Ohio. No, stay in Ohio. Or there's okay. This is what I would tell people. This is my advice.
For reals now. No.
This is what I tell people. If you really want to do this, you have to study it. You have to train. You have to find a mentor. You have to find teachers. You have to find different outputs, different sources. Before you come out here, it's kind of like I was saying. Like, I didn't come out here to LA until I had a strong foundation.
Ready. Yeah,
until you were ready, exactly. So that's the biggest advice: is find a mentor, find a teacher that you can, break bread with, and just pick at each other's brains and figure out your strengths and weaknesses, like I was saying. So yeah, I would say just maybe stay in Ohio for a little bit, save up, because you got to save up, and that's a big thing too. Especially if you're coming out to LA, you're gonna have to save up. Read some books. If it's Ohio and maybe there isn't a lot of theater stuff going around in Ohio, like I said, just do it. Watch interviews. One big thing I do is I watch a lot of YouTube interviews and or even movies too. Watching movies, you get to study. Get a notebook. Why is that character doing that there? Just start doing your own little research, your own little nerd, sessions or whatever. And then once you feel like, okay, I understand it a little bit, and understand everything too. If you want to be an actor, understand the lighting, understand the camera, understand a little bit of everything, right? Because that's only gonna make you better. So just start learning everything. Yeah.
Start learning everything.
What about you, Kimberly? What advice do you have?
I mean, just to piggyback off what you said, learn everything.
Yeah.
I think now it helps because you have resources. They're everywhere.
Yeah.
Books, YouTube, TikTok. I mean, there's even actors who, go on there and do practice everything, even, just work on your craft, no matter what it is that you do, whether that's reading, because, that's where the writing, you can understand writing better as an actor. That's your biggest takeaway, and also, some people are like, oh, I think I have to make it in a couple years, you know, but you haven't lived enough, you know, unless, you know, you're older and, you know, you lived too much to understand experiences too. So don't be so hard on yourself either, you know, because, you know, a lot of people are like, oh, I really like that role and stuff, you know, and then they're like, they go and, you know, they might have not understood something, and it's like, it's not even your fault. It's just, you know, there's some people with that experience that they brought in, and then, you know, that's a reason that they, you know, they understood more.
Yeah.
You know, so I think that's something that, you know, all of us, you know, we're all, even as actors, you know, we tend to be hard on ourselves. We tend to be our biggest critic. And we're like, oh, well, I don't know why, or maybe I don't understand this thing. And then when you get older, it finally clicks.
Yeah.
On a random
you see
Tuesday,
it different
you know?
now. Yeah.
You're like, oh, you know,
Tuesday.
I don't know why I said Tuesday.
She brought up a good point. She brought up a good point earlier, what she was saying, don't be afraid to change. Because yes, the biggest attraction is acting, or you want to be in front of the camera, but you might go into acting and then you might get on set, hey, I kind of like what that light guy is doing. I like what, you know, I like doing costumes, or I like how they're dressed. So it's not always going to be the first thing that you think you're going to do. Yeah. It could change into something else. It could go into writing, or it could go into, you know, so to also be open to that change, right? Like maybe it is in acting, maybe it's, you know, like directing. Don't be afraid to change your career path, right? If you want to be an actor, I know it looks cool, you want to do it, but just be open to, hey, maybe, and you're gonna have to eventually probably start doing other things. You have to wear multiple hats, like me. I'm doing editing, I'm doing all this stuff. So just be open to change and shifts in your career. Yeah, that was it. I just want to piggyback.
Congratulations, Brian. That was beautiful. But yes, a round of applause for Brian. That was beautiful.
That was a great recovery.
That was beautiful. I don't even need to say anything. No, but you know, again, piggyback off of you. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I know that you said earlier that, you know, writing, you know, leave it back, you know, later on. But, you know, again, on a random Tuesday, you're like, I have a story, and then you just go in and write it, you know, and it's okay that if your writing isn't the way that he writes or you write, you know,
everybody has their own style.
Has their own style, and they're creative with it. But as long as you're open to it, you know, and then you network and you're like, okay, can you, you know, if you're open to it, can you give me some notes, or let me pick at your brain, you know, that goes back to the mentorship, finding someone, you know, and just, you know, if you want to change something, if you want to learn something, you know, go ahead and do it. You know, it's, I think, networking and asking questions. And I have this quote from my mom that she always says, that she's like, preguntando se llega a Roma, right?
That's my saying.
There you go, see? And, you know, you ask, just ask, because someone has answers, you know? There's answers anywhere, everywhere, and people are your biggest resources, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, just go ahead and do it. If you're in Ohio, and
no, you're in Arkansas.
Oh,
okay.
The writer, okay. Yeah.
So
the writers,
the actors over there, the writers over here.
Yeah, no, definitely in Arkansas. Here's the thing. Definitely, yeah. Just, you know, you read. That's writing. And, you know, just different things. You pick up a script from a theater play. You know, Shakespeare. You know, he was good at writing, and because and even for us as actors, when we had to pick up a Shakespeare, we had to really understand what he's saying, you know, because it's old English, right?
English,
but
yeah.
The message and every word is so purposeful that we have to learn to pick it apart. I think that's why they always give it to us actors, right? Because that's our first go-to is, can you pick apart a screenplay, you know, and understand what is being said in this moment, and can you say it in the way that it was supposed to be said, you know? Obviously within the depths or the realms of what your character is, you know? So yeah, everything, the world is your school, you know? Just go to class. That's the biggest thing. And that's anywhere.
Yeah.
You know, with anything.
How many pieces have you written?
If
everything
a lot
together.
Okay,
together.
I've written a good, let's say, 10 things. A couple of them I've shot already. I think two of them have been shot already. One of them is finished, which was The Dinner. I did that earlier this year. Then we did this one, Here's to You. That's been shot. I wrote a feature film for another. I think he was going to direct it, and he wanted to tell his story, and so then it was like based on the IE. I think that is in production now, and I just wrote it, gave it to him, say, you know what, go ahead and do what you need to do, and I think he's in the process of doing that, and then other projects that I want to work with, and this is why I started doing Here's to You, because I wanted to get the ball rolling on directing, wanted to polish that, that exercise, that environment, know what it is, working with different DPs, working with different people, actors as well, and then so that way when I get the ball rolling for that one, because that one's a lot bigger, then I know what to expect. I know now that for budgeting I have to do this, for casting I have to do that, for people in the crew I have to do this, so working with this was basically my practice. This was my school. I was like, okay, before I throw myself into something big, I want to make sure that I know and understand what I'm getting into. Yeah. So I think this was a very good and successful practice.
Was it intimidating for you at all?
It was, in the sense that I hadn't directed before. I've seen others do it, and I always, I could say like, oh yeah, I could do that. I could totally do that. But when you're put in the game, then it's like, okay, I was just kidding. No, but yeah, I was like, okay, go home, everybody. No, but you learn stuff. Again, I was learning how to communicate better. I was learning for the editing thing too. Like even on the day, I was like, oh, I should get this shot, because in editing, Brian's gonna let me for that.
Yeah.
Because then that's gonna work well for the scene or the message, which is very big for me. And it was intimidating because you don't know what you're getting yourself into. You don't know what to expect, and you're just praying that it goes well, and thank God that it did. And I had a lot of fun, actually. So I think it was it wasn't too far from what I hoped it would be.
Yeah. How long was your your shooting? Yeah. How long was that?
It was 2 days.
2 days.
2 days. Yeah. I didn't want it to be too long. This one, it was a 2-page script, but what made it, again, it goes down to, as a director, how do I want to shoot it? How do I want it to look? And so then I did the shot list, and then I didn't want to really exhaust my actors to shoot it all in one day, and then thinking that again, that goes to, as a director, I have to plan. Or the producer, and especially right now that your budget isn't as big, or maybe your team isn't as big either. So you have to. So I had to fill a couple hats, a couple roles, and then make sure that the producing side of it was the planning side of it was on the dot, and then but we just did it in 2 days. I talked to my DP, and we were like, okay, what do you think would be better? And he said, you know what? Doing it in 2 days, I think we can make it happen. Yeah. So that way it's efficient, smoother, and then we have time to also get a few things in if needed. So I think that really did help, and I think it went really smooth. Yeah.
Your runtime on the film, because it's obviously a short film, right?
Yeah.
How long? How many minutes is that?
Right now it's under 10 minutes.
Under 10 minutes.
Yeah, it's gonna be because the thing about a short. Hello. The thing about a short film is you want to keep it as short as possible, especially for a first project, right?
Okay.
Like she said, this was kind of like her film school. This was our film school. Like, get out there and do it, and start off with a small piece. Don't eat the whole pie yet. Get a little crumb first. Then that way, once like that, yeah, exactly. So yeah, we wanted to just keep it as short as possible, and right now it's looking like it's going to be under 10 minutes. So, and again, that's good for festivals too, because now you have more access to festivals, because you don't have a 40-minute or an hour-long thing that you have to submit, and people, their attention spans are very short nowadays. So it's
TikTok.
like. Yeah, exactly. So it's like the shorter, the better, and the more you can pack into that short amount of time and intrigue them and interest them and all that stuff, it's gonna be better for sure. Yeah.
So let me ask you about this film, this movie. It's 10 minutes long. It's a movie. Is it then just like a scene? Because you mentioned the title's dinner, so we're not gonna give it away. But is it a scene that happens during dinner time, or?
Yes. So. going back to what Brian said, when you write something smaller, you want to get to the point, right? And it helps also for you to become a better writer because you want a beginning, middle, and end for anything, for all movies, right? And what's good about doing a short film is that you're able to hit those targets, easier. But you have to be very purposeful in what happens in that beginning, middle, and end, and if you get the message across. So when I did that, I didn't want to do too many locations, too many of this, because I know what I'm working with, which is just, it was just the house that my DP graciously let me use for Paul Black. Thank you. And, I just wanted to use what I had. So then I go ahead and thought, this was a 1920s film. I wanted to do that. I wanted to showcase a Hispanic cast and something that does have a beginning, middle, end. So in a sense, it can be seen as a scene in a bigger movie. I realized that I tend to do that. Even for the dinner, it was another dinner scene,
Oh, okay.
But that one was more practice. This one was more on a higher scale. And with like a camera that really depicts different things. It had a team essentially for this one, and so I wanted to kind of grab what I knew, and so then that was dinner. I said, okay, I know how to do that. So now let me do a story that is in the 1920s. That was what was different time period, and again with the script. Something with a little bit of an old language into it, and if it were to have been a movie, I think it was a section of the movie where it could tell you exactly what a beginning is. You didn't have to see the whole movie to understand what could have happened within it. Yeah, with this one, I really wanted to highlight the relationships between everyone, and I think that's what we ended up shooting, and that's what you could see. Hopefully you'll be able to see in the end product. And I like doing that rather than having to do a long-winded, explanation of, this happened because of this and this and this, and this is why they're at the point that they are.
The thing about keeping it short too is, like she said, you're building the characters, you're building the relationship. Now you have something to pitch. Now if somebody goes to this festival and they see, wow, this was a really good thing, and it's this short thing, let's make it into a feature, and let's budget it, let's finance it, and let's make it into a bigger thing. Yeah. So not only by keeping it shorter, it's just also like, okay, somebody can see that and want to do something bigger, and so yeah. Anyways, hi.
Bye.
Bye. Oh yeah, bye. Just want to add that.
But yeah, it's definitely you could categorize it. I even say like, oh yeah, my scene or whatnot. But and I think you could also say that with, I think what makes it look more like a scene is because it was only one location. Yeah. But again, I wanted to be efficient. I wanted to be more of just, let's just tell a story here, and so that way it's not so crazy.
Yeah,
that's and that's my director hat talking.
You have to work. Hold it. You have to work with what you have.
Yeah.
Okay? You can't expect, I'm going to do a shooting scene outside, and then you're going to come in, and we're going to have a fighting scene, and then we're going to do a cut, and we're going to stab you, and you're going to have VFX and all that stuff. Like, no. Like, you want to keep it simple. You like you said, we had a location, and we had it all in that location. And, just if you're going to do your first thing, keep it small, keep it in one room, make it, very character heavy like she did. Very dialogue, visual, all that stuff. So, work with what you have.
I'm like learning everything from you guys right now.
This is your class right now.
After this, I'm gonna go back and just take my notes.
Oh yeah.
Rewind. What she say? What she say?
No, yeah. Again, this is all like we're all learning together. And I think that's the good thing about networking and even doing this. Learning from each other, because that way you don't have to go through that.
Yeah.
Like if you would have done, like, let's say you did a 30-page something for your first one. And then you go through it and you're like, oh my God, I wish somebody would have sat down with me.
Which, by the way, is where I'm at right now.
And we're working on it.
What? Yes.
And so then knowing that experience is like, it's like, when you talk to an older person and they're like, don't do it because this is what happens, there's always a reason why, because they've been through that. They understand, and they don't want you to go through that, and so then, we always say, go simple. It doesn't mean that it you know, you have to do it boring. Simple is not boring. It's more so efficient.
Yeah.
It's more challenging because now you have to do a story that is well written.
Yeah.
You know, it challenges you to say, why are you writing in the first place? You know, was it just for the effects? Was it just for the location? You know, rather than the heart of the story. And I think right now, even today, when you see movies, you're like, I've been entertained enough. You know, you go to Netflix and you're just like, you know, there's nothing new. There is so many movies, but it's just, you know, it's just for entertainment. You know, you're not learning anything anymore. You're not being impressed by something. So when you see something even simple now, you're like, wow, what was so good about that? Because it didn't have a car chase scene. It didn't have this and this, you know, but in reality, it was a story.
Yeah.
You know, that's why we go see something, because we want to be told a story, you know, and
you want to relate to it. You want to relate to the story. You want to, you know, be in the person's shoes, you know, but again, just keeping it simple. Like, it's ultimately, at the end of the day, the filmmaking, the storytelling is for the people.
Yeah.
Okay? Like, you got to keep that in mind. So it's like, yes, you can have and there's ways of doing that too, like doing crazy, like even like Hollywood, like big budget films, they still have a ground level. Like, take for example, like Fast and Furious, right? You know, like they do all that crazy stuff, all those crazy stunts, but the root of it is with Vin Diesel, his family. You know, so there's an element of it where it's like you still have to have that core theme that people are gonna relate to and want to see your movie again, or be inspired, or have a changed opinion about something. So it's about family.
What would you consider your writing style to be?
My writing style, in terms of genre, or what?
Genres.
I am a sucker for time period pieces.
Yes.
I love writing, not necessarily in the past, but more of I grew up in a family where my mom, she loves decorating different things. It was always like vintage. And so then I kind of always had that, and our values were always more traditional. So then I always kind of identified with things of the past, you know, the way that there was like, you talked a certain way, you presented yourself a certain way, you know, so then I kind of was always there. So then whenever I see movies, you know, that talked about that stuff, or, you know,
that's what
like,
calls your attention.
That's what calls my attention, and I'm like, oh, the set design is nice, or this and this. Even for this one, I wanted it to look the part, you know, in terms of costume and this, so that not only for it to look good, but for my actors to actually feel. And that was my theater side. You know, I always loved going to on stage after week 5 when the set was built, because then I'm like, wow, I'm in that world. You know, like, not only does that help me individually as an actor to like to now get away from the modern world and to be in this present moment where it's like, I'm here. I'm this character now, you know. And you say that it helps you with your costume. For me, it helped me with the set design, was to looking at it, to be in that world, you know. And so then, for me, writing was always like, and because I read a lot, it was usually books that had more of like a formal way of talking, you know. It was or even Shakespeare, you know, things that was a lot more traditional and this and that. So I usually grab that, and then with writing, it's more of like sentimental stuff. You know, I've always liked, for example, Steven Spielberg when he did his films, because they were emotional. They were more of like, there's something to say, you know, and you know, in life, you know, sometimes I may not express my emotions too much, you know, or be so sentimental, but for me, writing has always been a segue for that. You know, there's so much things that, you know, and especially in this life, you know, you tend to hold your cards close, you know, for whatever reason. And for me, writing has always been of, let's get down to talking about it. Let's have the conversation, you know, but more in a storytelling moment, you know. And me bringing back traditional values into it, and then with modern situations that's happening or continuously happening out throughout, you know, time, you know, there are themes that we know we still talk about, and you know, things that, you know, we want to express, but we're not really saying it, you know. So for me, it's kind of disguising it in a time period piece, but talking about a modern problem, a modern thing without
situation.
really without really, you know, saying it so obviously, you know?
Yeah.
So that's my way of writing. And again, with the added fact that, you know, when I meet an actor, when I know that, you know, I try to build that interpersonal relationship so that I can write for you. I'm like, let me know your values, because that in itself is a character, you know? So then I tend to know that person, and I'm like, okay, if I was to put them in that time period, you know, how would they respond to the situation that I've given them, you know? To one, set them up for success, you know, because as actors, we want something that's relatable.
Yeah.
And we can portray that so much easier than trying to really mold ourselves, which, you know, if that's your thing, go do it. But, you know, my writing is more of like, let me know what you can offer, and just, you know, you then can go all out with what you know and identify with the character and be in the time period and just go for it, you know, and just, you know, have fun. Yeah, I try to set something that's a playground for them, something new, you know, and that's the way that I write. That's my writing style.
When all these writer strikes were going on last year, what were your thoughts about it?
I mean,
because it took a long time to get over that whole deal out there.
Yeah, it did take a while, and I think I don't know if at the end process, I don't think they ended up fully getting what they wanted at the end of the day. But again, it's something, I think that's a conversation with the business, with this and this. At that time, I was fairly new to writing, but I understood, you know, the time that it takes to write, the, you know,
effort,
you know, because without writers, there is no story. I think that's the biggest thing that, you know, as a writer, you know, you feel that. That's like, I'm the foundation of what happens all after, you know. Every role is important. That's a given, right? Yeah. But a writer is someone who gives you the world, a world, and says, okay, go ahead and build it, you know? Mm-hmm. But, and so then, I understand the, you know, the frustration, the conversation they want to have, you know, to be heard, to be understood. But at the end of the day, business, wherever there's money, there's always other perceptions being involved, you know, there's other agendas too, whether that be positive, negative, you know, it's all there. But, you know, we're that's why when we write, I think for me, I made it my mission to be, if I write for the people. I write for my people, you know, because that's essentially what I do it for. And, you know, the world will take care of the rest. Because I want it to be impactful, you know, and whatever liaison that ended up being entrapment, that's my Leo to mix with at the end of the day. But as long as I know maybe someone on the other side of the screen got inspired, you know, it was eye-opening for them or whatnot, you know, I did my mission. I completed it. Mm-hmm. You know, everything else, that's something that I would then have to, you know, step into or whatnot.
Yeah. Earlier you had mentioned that you wrote this movie for your people here. Okay, you know how like Adam Sandler has his films and he always sticks to his same cast. Yeah. Is that where you see yourself later on?
I love that you mentioned that, actually, because I think that's why I've always loved Adam Sandler. I've always admired that he has his team, that and I think the biggest thing with Adam Sandler is that when you see a movie of his come out, you already kind of know who's gonna be in it, and you know you're in good hands, you know. You're like, but because they have good chemistry together, you know, and they work together, and it just seems like a fun thing to be in. And you're right there with them, you know. In some ways, they already understand the audience, you know. They build their brand in a sense for you to understand what you're getting yourself into, you know. They have a certain kind of humor, and you know, and I love that he's been branching out into dramatic things as well. But still, there is some of his people, you know. I think understanding the industry, it's always important to surround yourself with people who've helped you along the way, you know, to have those very strong bonds, because it's in a way of saying, I've maintained that relationship.
Yeah.
You know, and I think maintaining a relationship in a business that is so an agenda, like, you know, it's very hard because, you know, some people may go at it like, I'm gonna do my thing and whatever happens, you know. But, you know, seeing him, I admire that he's always been like, oh, you know,
come along, let's go,
let's do it. You know, he doesn't stray away from working with other people.
Yeah.
But he does make sure that his people are also taken care of, you know. Because I don't know what situation it is, but imagine that if they had no one else, you know, they're just, you know, you're just gonna drop them off. No, like, you know, they've been with you. You have good chemistry. You maintain that relationship, and you see it, you know, and that's the effect of maintaining that relationship. And you know, and for a bunch of people to do it, you know, Grown Ups was such a good example of that. You know, they did two of them. And
one,
you know,
grown up, two,
the chemistry was great.
Yeah, there's a reason why you see a lot of directors working with the same actors or the same cast or the same crew, because it gets to a certain point where, like Kimberly's saying, you understand each other and you understand what you're going for, and you sometimes you don't even have to talk about it. Like, it's just like one word, okay, you know what I'm talking about. So, and it could get very challenging to have to build a new relationship with new people, right? So ultimately, at the end of the day, what they want is a smooth and easy process, right? So once you start bringing other people in, and you know, it doesn't mix well with this or that. That's why you see like Scorsese and De Niro, like they're pairing, and you know, those like legendary iconic like duos and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because it's just ultimately at the end of the day, you want to work with people that you can trust.
Yes.
So that's a big thing, is especially in the big roles like that, like a director and an actor. You know, that you have to have that vulnerability. You have to understand each other. You have to understand why maybe he goes off on a tangent, you know, or why he does this or that, you know, kind of thing. So just having a good underground layer of knowing each other and trusting each other creates a great environment to create art.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Bars.
No, keep the microphone.
Oh, okay, keep the microphone.
As an actor, earlier you said you will go through a role, and if you feel it, you go for it. Mm-hmm. What kind of actor, like, what is your specific roles you would like to just stick to, or you just find yourself that you can deal with horror, you could deal with drama, you could be a comedian, because you're pretty funny, but you know, like, where do you see yourself?
Hello, my name is Brian. So that's one thing I'm developing right now. I'm figuring out, right? I'm still early in the stage, but that is definitely one thing I'm working on right now is you know, doing workshops, because I've been going to like workshops and doing comedic scenes, doing comedic roles, and seeing how that feels. And you know, I might be doing like a horror thing later on this month. So it's definitely as I go, I'm gonna be able to see, okay, oh, I like this a little bit better. So it is definitely a finding experience. You know, I don't know yet what I'm gonna. I do know what I'm good at, but I'm also willing to, you know, venture out and find, oh, you know, this is kind of fun. I kind of like this a little better. So I definitely want to be versatile. I don't want to just be stuck in one thing. I want to play a business guy. I want to play, you know, hardcore guy. I could do a lot of things. I could be a nerd. I could be, you know, like all that stuff.
You could be a serial killer.
Yes.
You should give him a role. What's that one movie with the guy with all the characters?
She looked at you and she was like, serial killer.
It has like 70 different.
Have you seen that movie? The guy that has all the, like, he has a sort. Is it Split? Yeah. See, I just see you doing that with your voices up here and down there and everything. You would do perfect. Yeah. That was such a good movie.
You gotta audition for it. You gotta take his spot.
No, you need to write him one in 1940 before the split.
Before things went wrong.
I will make you go crazy.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. Write me a part like that, and then I'll become a writer. And then I'll just. No, that's definitely I've always seen those things like the Jeffrey Dahmer stuff.
Yes,
on the series and stuff. Like, I definitely could like pull off something like.
Yeah, you could, because you like.
I would. Yeah. I mean, if the script is good and there's a good team behind it, and the lighting and all that.
See, guys. So if Kim don't want to do it, he's ready.
Yeah.
No,
I always wanted to kill somebody, and I'm just kidding.
We get that on tape.
No.
If she doesn't, if you don't hear from her on social media next
If
week,
I'm gone,
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
That's practicing a role.
That's what's funny is I was talking to somebody the other day and she was an actress and she was like, yeah, acting is fun because you just get to do crazy things that you don't do in your regular life, like kill people and do all this like crazy like screaming and yelling, because she does more horror stuff, right? So, and that's her niche. That's what she likes to do. So I'm just like, okay, yeah, I'll see you later. I'll tell.
She's letting it out in a legal way.
yeah. So yeah. Anyways.
yeah.
So yeah, I'm still developing. I'm still trying to see what other avenues I could take for sure.
Sounds
Yeah.
good. Your mom. Now we'll go to Kim. What does your mom say about all this? They excited? Like, does your family support you? Or
Definitely.
Yeah.
They do.
Yeah.
I think it's funny because when I mentioned I did theater, I would always theater was always after school. It was always like, oh well, there's an audition and this and this. I was thrown into a class of theater for an elective, and I fought to get out of it because I was doing music at the time, and then I ended up staying. I loved it, and then the next year they said auditions. And then that's when I was like, oh, you know what, let me go figure out what it is, and then I would audition and I would get the part. And then my parents would be like, good. I'm surprised that, you did it, but, don't stay too long or too late because it is time. It was like 2 hours every night. It was night too. So I think they were always worried. And I think that has always been something that any parent of an artist would feel, and because it's commitment, it's with other people that you don't know, it's, you collaborate with people of all shapes and sizes, and I think, and it's always valid, you think Hollywood, you think, my parents were, again, the traditional views, they're always been like, what can go wrong? But because they care about, my safety and whatnot, and, but they've seen that every year when I would do something, they saw commitment, and they said, I'd rather support someone who's committed to it for the right reasons, because I was always doing something that was creative, I wasn't just staying,
Wasting
for a
time.
friend.
Yeah,
I wasn't
for
wasting
fun.
time.
Yeah.
It was more of like, I loved the craft of it, and it was something that I didn't want to stop doing, my parents would always be like, okay, you could do this one, but that's the last time, and I'd be like, yeah. But then I would go and audition next year, and then, but I wouldn't tell them I was auditioning. I'd just be like, oh yeah, there's an audition, and then I'd go, and then I'd get a part, and then I'd be like, yes, she's gonna let me because I got a part, and so then I would tell her, and she's like,
Again.
yeah, it's like,
Told you no more.
but she knew that there was something just calling me to do it, and so she would always let me. She'd be like, okay, maybe throughout high school you could do that, but I showed her. I think it was always my way of like don't worry, I know my limits, but I'm also letting you know that that's what I really like to do.
Yeah.
Like if I don't do it for a while, I'm upset about, I just feel like I have to do something, whether that's writing, whether that's acting, whether that's, doing something, and I think they saw that, they understood that, there's something that
Your heart
you
was there.
to do. Who am I to stop you, and they've let me go this far, and just the other day I also showed them the trailer that I did this one, and they're always excited. I think they always think that, oh, maybe it's just the phase. And I think that they've always thought that. They're like, okay, like they don't really think too much of it. I think that happens to a lot of celebrities. Their families usually like, oh yeah, well they do what they like to do, but other people are like inspired from it,
Yeah.
I guess just because that's not a world that they're involved in,
Yeah.
They might not understand like too much of the struggles, but because they saw that I've always committed, they don't worry too much about it.
Yeah.
They automatically believe in you. They're like, yeah, you're gonna do it, because you've shown me that much this whole time. So they've always been supportive. They've always they're like, oh, okay, go and do
How
this.
did your mom like your trailer? What'd she say?
She liked it. She liked it. She's like, okay. She, I think because I always tell her during the process, I'd be like, okay, well, I decorated it this way, and they're always supportive with her, especially because, she decorates. She's like, oh, you could also do this, or you can get that from this, That's her love language of saying, I might not understand the world, but I can help you this for what I know. And that's always been the support that they've showed me. They've always like, do you need this? Do you need that? And they're like, oh, well, you go. I even told her, like, do you want to be on set? She's like, no, just go do it. She's like, no, just, go do you. And then show me the pictures after, and I did that. After shooting was done, I sat down with my parents, my mom and dad, and then I showed them. I think an important thing too is I've always been transparent with them, with my ideas, with where I'm going, so that way they don't wonder like, oh, what are you doing? What Or are you doing stuff that you feel pressured to do? And that again, that's your parent trying to take care of your child. But I've always loved being transparent with them, showing this is what I'm doing, this is what I like to do, and we're going for it.
You have siblings?
I do.
They think you're crazy, huh?
Yeah. That my brother. So my first directing or thing that I did for a classroom, he was my first actor. And, he's actually my twin brother.
Oh,
and,
okay.
So then I forced him. And he was, it was a non-speaking thing. It was like a silent film. And it was, that's where I learned, the look of something, this and this. And he's like, again, he's like, it's just a phase, or that's your thing, that's your world,
Yeah.
And again, it goes to like, if they're not in it, they don't really understand it, but because they see that you're doing stuff, they're like, okay, go.
Yeah.
Yeah, good. Like, good for
like
you.
my sisters. Okay, yeah, good job.
Yeah.
Whatever.
and I think that's important. It's important to have that you have the backing of your family.
Yeah.
But it's also important to, end up with people that are in the industry that eventually become your family.
Yeah.
Because now we understand the struggle, and when I say my team, I have, Juan Villegas and Priscilla Badillo. Those, they've been my day one since, I started theater. I met them in theater.
Thank you guys.
Yes, thank you guys. And, they have become my family.
It's because people don't get, like I say thank you, because people never really get the struggle of finding relatable people.
Yes.
And it's a struggle because, number one, maybe they're off and they wig out and that was that. Number two, like you said before, you don't see the same vision.
Yeah.
And then number three, to keep that relationship open to where you can communicate without getting all butthurt.
Yeah.
The struggle is real.
No, yeah.
So thank you guys.
I mean, it's also because you're a dreamer. It's a creative dream that you have, and people, are in a sense more logical, and they want a certain, they follow a different path. One that they like or they think it's more logical. Do this, go to school, get that job, and do that. And it works for them. That's totally fine. But when you're the dreamer, and when you have this big dream that you want to accomplish, people who haven't been given that dream cannot see it because it was never theirs to begin with. It's yours. Mm-hmm. And it's okay that no one else understands it or can see it because it was given to you for a reason and you have that passion to go for it.
Yeah.
So, but, life takes charge of giving you those people who understand you,
Yeah.
and a certain level, but always to a certain level because life wants you to accomplish that dream. It's like, yes, I'll give you the help, but at the end of the day, the test is on you. Can you achieve it? Can you go for it?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's hard, but it's a good thing that we network and we get those relationships.
I'm gonna take a quick second to give a saludo to my friend Blanca G. She's in Stockton. We just met recently and we bounce ideas off of each other. We have certain things that we're working on, and just the other day, and I'm 40, I've met a lot of people through my life for different things, and she is the first person that ever told me, okay, let's work on this, work on that, and if for whatever reason we can't see eye to eye, we're big girls, we could talk about it. So I'm sitting there like, what the hell? Nobody ever wants to talk about nothing. So I was like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna work with you then, cause yeah, you know, and like that goes back to that whole butthurt stuff. How many people don't like to hear criticism, or they think they're perfect the way they are, and they don't want to change nothing. So yeah, that's real important to be able to bounce off ideas and have your solid team. Yeah.
That's good. Thank you.
Yeah,
Good.
yeah.
That's really important.
Brian, who's your support team?
Who's my support team?
Yeah.
My support team would definitely be my mentor, my teacher. I sent him that trailer the other day.
Was that the guy that was at the viewing?
Oh, so that was my high school teacher.
Oh, okay, okay.
So that was my high school teacher, and he's also a big support too. I'll send him stuff and get advice from him still. But I sent the trailer to my old man, the 80-year-old that I trained for 4 years. And he calls me up. He's like, Brian, because he's an old school Italian guy. He's like, Brian, I swear on my mother's grave, like you got it, kid. like you know, because he's always loved the film noir. That's where I kind of got that attachment to the the Brandos back then and all that stuff, and all those characters, Humphrey Bogart and all that. So once I sent the trailer, he was just so excited. He was just so happy, and and that for me is like the best feeling ever when you're like
in, because he said you're in.
But not only that, but you're making people proud.
Yes,
the people are showing the support that, oh wow, like you are growing, you are developing. Definitely, yeah. So that would be for sure him. I have my friend Danny too. Shout out Danny. Who I kind of always, every week or so, every 2 weeks ago, we'll talk, we'll chop it up. What are you doing? What are you doing? So he's somebody else to bounce, thoughts and ideas off of. Yeah, fool. Shut up. So yeah, and then as far as my family's always been supportive as well. They've always come out to the shows. They've always come out to my, they even came out to the premiere and everything. And they're not like, oh, like you have to go to school, you have to do this. They've never been like those type of parents. As long as I'm working and I'm not being a bum, they're okay with it. So as long as you're being productive and you're doing something and you're staying out of trouble, that's one thing. I stay out of trouble. I live a boring life. I stay out of trouble. And
that's good. You don't need trouble, guys.
Yeah. And I know for actors, they say, oh, you gotta be out there and experiencing life and all this and that. But I was having this conversation with somebody the other day, and they were asking me like, what is your why? Like, why do you do this? Why do you act? Why do you all that? And at first I didn't know. I couldn't figure out like, why do I don't know. But he's like this older guy, and he's been around the block too. And I don't know why I always talk to old people. Because
they're the fascinating ones.
Yes, because they've experienced it. And so I've been talking to this guy, and he's kind of been mentoring me a little bit with a couple things. He's been in the business for like 20 years or so. So I'm having like dinner with this guy, and they asked me like, why are you doing this? What's your why? And I didn't know. I was like, what? $1 million? No, I'm just kidding. Like, no, I want to be. No, like I was like, I don't know what. Like, so he said, I'm gonna tell you why you're doing it. And he said, you have trouble expressing yourself in your personal life, and when you get into a character, you're able to show that side. Because again, I live a very, like I said, a very simple life, simple, boring life, and I don't get to express myself that much, like just like in general, like me personally, I'm very like closed in and and stuff like that. So when I get into these characters, a role like Jumped In, that father and son scene, stuff like that, it's like, oh, I can show that color a little bit more, like on the screen, and somebody's gonna see that, somebody's gonna relate to that, and. So yeah, I think it's the reason why I do it is it's the best way that I can find to express myself in those characters, and it's also kind of like, because it gives you kind of like a little layer, a little protecting, like, oh, this is not really me doing it, like this is the character, but you're like, I'm not really killing this person, like it's the character.
We'll go back to killing. See, guys, no, that serial killer here. I keyed.
But yeah, it's like that's what I was like, dude, how did you know that? Like, how did you break the? But it's very true. It's like I that's why I like acting is because you get to go into these different, like even with this one, like it's like a different genre, it's like a different thing, you know, you get to put on the costume, you get to play pretend, you know, like in this world, but you're still grounded in a certain message, in a certain theme that everybody's going to universally relate to.
Yeah.
So that's the important thing. Yes, you could do sci-fi, you could do a genre, you could do this and that, but you always got to have that center message that you're trying to get across for people to relate to, like you said, grow, or you know, hey, that's me, I've been through that kind of thing. And that's what ultimately is the goal for me. I mean, I was talking to Danny De La Paz the other day, you know, a big puppet, at the Chicano thing, and he tells me he still gets DMs, like long messages from his work that he did in Boulevard Nights, and it's these long-winded things about how the character and this and that. And he starts getting like, Brian, I cry when I see these things, and I'm just like, man, I can't wait to get to that point where you can have such a big impact in somebody's life, you know. And that's the beauty about art. That's the beauty about storytelling, and whether it's paintings, acting, music is a big one too for a lot of people, you know. So it's a therapy session for people, you know. Like there's so much trouble going on, so much.
It's an escape for the hour or whatever, an hour and a half.
It's an escape for an hour and a half, and you know, like you said, those characters, you see yourself in them, and you know, you get to learn about. Like at least me, when I watch characters, I like to relate to them. I like to see why they do that, you know, with this and that. So,
what's your favorite genre to watch movies?
My favorite genre to watch movies. It's definitely, I think it is more dramas. It's definitely more dramas. Movies like Taxi Driver and like like there's like stuff like that. That's kind of like more dark and gritty.
You're so young. That movie's so freaking old.
No, I love. That's the thing is
deep stuff.
Yeah, I love movies like from the 70s, like Steve McQueen stuff and all that. Like I love all those like movies. Again, I owe that to my mentor, my teacher, for like. He would always tell me, like, steal from these people. Like, you know, there's a reason why they were successful and, you know, all that stuff. And so he kind of took me back, like, okay, do your history, watch your research and your history and all that stuff, and see how these guys did it back then. I know that the style is a little different now, you know, the technique's a little different, but there was something, again, that root message that there's a reason why people still like it, why people still watch it, because they had a strong root message that people can still relate to today. Even though if it is in a different scenario, different city, different time, it's still that root message.
Who would be your favorite actor, you think?
My favorite actor? Brian Saenz. No, I'm just kidding.
He's like this guy.
He watches his movie on repeat.
No. Who's my favorite actor? I definitely like Al Pacino. I definitely have always, it would definitely be Al Pacino, like Robert De Niro. In the newer generation, I would say somebody like Bradley Cooper. I really like his work, and Ryan Gosling has some really good stuff too. He has that range that you know, like that. He could do comedy, so his career is something that kind of like, oh, like that would be cool to have that kind of range and stuff like that. I'm gonna be in the music, I'm gonna be dancing, I'm gonna be doing La La Land or something.
Yeah, the Barbie movie.
Yeah. So
and then the Notebook.
Yeah, but then he has like those dark, gritty ones. Like he has a movie like called Drive, where he's like a driver for like a getaway driver, and you know, so he just has so much range in a lot of the roles that he plays. But yeah, I would say like those would be like the top four, like old school and new school like actors.
Let me ask you your opinion. You guys met through Chicano Hollywood, a forum for the Latino community, the Chicano especially more. Yeah. Both of you guys, where do you see the Chicano culture going in with the whole movie scene the next 10 years? Where do you guys see that going?
I mean, it's funny that you mentioned it because, you know, this weekend we were getting, you know, when we were seeing the panels, I think that's the conversation we have a lot, right? We talk about, you know, what's the future of the Chicanos in film?
Yes.
You know, how does that look like? How's it looking like now? You know, it's definitely, I think what I heard a lot was more of, you know, it's always been whites against us browns, right? And that's just in a very blunt way to say it. Mm-hmm. But I also think that there's the added conversation that's like sometimes it's been brown versus brown too. You know, I think whether that's because we're trying to mix in with the whites, or we're trying to go above beyond that, and then we forget to bring each other, you know, in the game, then I think that's another added factor. But I think it's more of like this, and Morgan Freeman said it best, because they were saying, again, with the African American, they were saying, like, how do we stop racism? And what he responded was, stop talking about it. Stop making it such a big theme. Let's just move on from that, and, you know, just be, you know? And I think that's what should be, is just collaborate, you know? Obviously, realistically, there are still some bigwigs in the business, right? There's still that old school mentality there. But if we, as a new school, start with just working with each other, you know, and part of that, why I became a writer, was because I wanted to write for us, you know, to show, like, in life, it wasn't just whites,
White
you know?
people.
Yeah, there was us too. So I try to place us in different scenarios where you would typically see whites, you know? And I think more, it's been throughout history, it's been white, white, white. Then we got to this, okay, fine. You guys do yours, now we're gonna bring in our own stuff, right? Then it was just our own things. And then it turned into a category. We made ourselves a category in the call sheet. And then now we're kind of stuck there, where they're like, okay, we have to add a demographic, or else the woke people will get mad, you know? But it's not even about that. It's more of just, you know, if you see life for what it is, we're a mix, you know? So why wouldn't you show that in films, you know? It's just logical, you know? And there's more range in general, you know? So I think that's at least maybe not a conversation to keep having, and also to stop categorizing ourselves into the same stereotype. I understand that a history needs to be taught, but I think history is history at the end of the day. It's done. So let's talk about life now and where we want to be, you know? So let's do that, you know, instead of trying to be like, oh, well, you know, this and this happened and we should still be angry about it. No, like, you know, if we were still angry about slavery and everything, we're going to put ourselves in that situation
And
again.
just stay there.
Yeah.
Stay there.
So then let's just move ahead from that and just be, you know, because that's essentially what we are. And then we could tell better stories. We could even develop new genres, you know? But because we keep saying life is just black and white, we're never going to see the gray. You know, we're never, and there's so much gray area to explore. And I think that's what we're missing. You know, so I think that's why it's something that in a few years, what I'm hoping for, you know, us, we're trying to, I know we keep saying, like, let's write for ourselves in this, which is great. We should do that, because no one else has been doing that. So yes, let's continue that, but not to make it a us against them, you know? It's more, let's work together and break that stereotype, that frenemy kind of thing, you know?
I agree with you. Like, I always say that there is so much talent that goes unseen.
Yeah.
Because we're not white. Yeah. And Hollywood shouldn't be like that. Like, I don't know if you guys ever watch movies in Spanish, but they all seem really low budget. And it sucks, because the stories could be really good, but just because they are so low budget, people either lose interest or they don't give it the attention they should. And then another example, the Walk of Fame. How many Latino names do you see on there for film? You know? You don't see any. Not actors. And it sucks. Like, why? Let us in. You know, Mexico's known for their freaking novelas. That's it. Like, what about big movies? What about all that stuff, you know? That's what I'm asking, because I'm right there with you guys. I want to be... I'm a writer, though. Like I've shared with you, that's what I would like to do. I wouldn't like to make it a business or career. I would just like maybe one movie and that's it, just to say I did it. You know, but it's because the same thing. Like, I like to entertain. I like to share stories more than anything, information that maybe people didn't know, and that whole escape. be able to have somebody escape from their life for at least an hour, you know? But yeah, no, that's why I was asking you, where do you think you see the next 10 years?
I mean, again, I understand that it's a business, that there's always loopholes that, you know, they try to, maybe they put themselves in that situation because it gets more money that way. And that's something that we understand. But again, it goes back to then, if that's the world that you live in, I think that's where you then put yourself is, why am I going to do it for? Am I going to do it because I want to get the money? Do I want to do this and this? Because if it's that, then you have to hit with the reality that it's going to be an uphill battle for them, you know? So what you want to do now is, and I've always thought, I've never thought too big of this career, because for me it's like, if it's too big, sometimes it gets lost. I feel like if I could show some films in a small community and make a bigger impact that way, you know, I feel like that I'd rather have that value much more than in Hollywood, where it's just a brand at the end of the day, and then it gets lost, it gets thrown away. Granted, if I by some miracle make it big and I could reach a bunch of audience, that'd be great.
Yeah,
you know. But if we go realistically, there are trials that I'm gonna have to face through. I know that, and there are people who are gonna want to stop it, you know, for whatever reason. So I have to then constantly check in with me and myself and be like, okay, where is it that I want to target? What's my mission statement, me personally? What do I want to do? Do I want to change it at a bigger scale? Then you're gonna have bigger tribulations, you know. So if you're ready for that, go do it, and I support you all the way. But if your life doesn't accommodate for that, then you know you have to be real with yourself.
Yeah.
You know, is that the lifestyle you want to go for? Do it. No one is stopping you but you. You know, and if we can be that change by just being who we are, offering our craft on the way, do it. You know, be the change, but don't get discouraged if the change doesn't happen at a very fast pace. You know, it takes years, you know, and we've gotten this far. So I think a lot of, and you know, you can't fight fire with fire for too long, because then you'll get burnt out. I think that is the biggest thing. So, you know, do it with what, you know, what you can go ahead, and if you were to die tomorrow, you could be content with what you did because your intentions were there. You know, I think that's the biggest thing. And, you know, for whatever artist, you know, think about it. Think about why you're doing it for who you're doing it for, and can you be content even when things don't go at a bigger scale, you know? And if it does, then do it. Then I commend you for it, because you're doing it for a lot more people, you know? But the trials are there, and be ready for it.
Yeah.
Bars.
You're right.
Bars.
Drop the mic. Just drop the mic. Go too.
Okay. Where do you see?
Okay, I'll keep it short and sweet and simple. We're doomed. I'm just kidding.
Dun, dun, no.
And scene.
And cut. We're doomed. And then add like an explosion. Look, it's getting better, right? There is progress. There is, you know, you're seeing a lot of stuff coming out now. Like, you know, within these past 3 or 5 years, there's been a lot more Latino representation, and you know. But I think ultimately, at the end of the day, it's just getting to work. Just getting to work and working on your craft. You know, because we are going to start getting opportunities, right? Eventually, it is going to get there, but we have to be ready for that opportunity. So we have to already have experience. So you guys are in good hands, because me and Kimberly, we got y'all. Yes. And just, you know, like I said, even with this Chicano Hollywood, you know, what they're doing and the community they're building, and so much growth that I've had through them and stuff like that, you could definitely feel like there's like a new energy, there's a new spark. So it's just feeding off that energy, but then again, also getting to work and studying your craft and making sure that, like I said, when you get that opportunity, you get presented something, that you're ready for it, and you don't just fumble, and you're not just doing it just to do it, you know, actually really want to do it, and again, understand your why. Why are you doing it? You know, so if you can have all those things lined up, your why, your prep, and then you'll be ready for that opportunity. So
yeah.
That's short and sweet.
Very short and
Bar-
sweet. Yeah. I bet we're wrapping it up. Is there anything you want to add that I may not have brought up? Both of you guys.
No, I mean, we talked so much about everything, but but it's good. It's talking about it. Be real with with the
Is
craft.
this your first interview?
My first interview?
Yeah.
Like this, yes.
Yes. Oh, yes, I love them. Yours? No, you've
Oh
already
no,
had
I know.
interviews.
I've done a few. I've done like radio and like a couple.
No, give her back to me. No,
See, this is why I talk.
no, I'm
my
just playing.
platform.
I'm just playing. No, I like to bring in new people.
Yeah.
Always. I wanted you. He actually sent you a message right after your premiere, and remember I told you you missed it. So it was like cool when she said I'm bringing somebody. I was like, oh my god, cool, But no, I love the point of my podcast as well when I do interviews is to bring new people.
Yeah.
So we know who are behind the everythings that go on.
Yeah.
Because eventually, like I said, local celebrities. You're gonna be eventually that staple because you're creating. Well, both of you guys,
Yeah.
So yeah, that's why it's good that we talked about everything, so everybody knows everything there is to know, and not just think, hey, I'm gonna bus it from Oklahoma, and I'm gonna have a mansion in a year, and the way people assume California and Hollywood work, because it doesn't work that way.
No, I mean, if you have a dream, pursue it. If the passion is there, go for it. There's a reason why the fire is lit, and now you just gotta throw in the logs. But in that process, you gotta chop it. You gotta look for the right tree, and you gotta keep, giving air.
You can't get too close to the fire because then you burn yourself. You don't have to, so.
There's a process to this. Okay, go camping.
Make s'mores. Make s'mores.
Exactly. You'll get the s'mores at the end of the day if you work hard enough. You find the material, you get to do it, then the world is your oyster. But no, definitely, I think just as Brian said, get to work. When you work, you get rewarded for that at the end of the day. So that's your biggest thing. Work, and you'll be rewarded.
Did you want to share your handles on Instagram for people to find you?
For me, my personal handle is Kimberly Argueta 701 on Instagram. My writing profile is Osley Kim Mir with a dot between after Osley and Kim.
You can follow me on IG at www. No, I'm just kidding. You go IG. I just use mainly IG at Brian_Saenz. That's BRIAN_SAENZ.
And if you can't spell my name, if you can't spell my name, just go to his profile. He's following me.
Yeah.
Easy.
Now you got word for word how to follow me. So yeah.
He expects like at least 50 new followers, guys. Come on.
I think after this, I won't. I'm just gonna like. Yeah.
You're gonna delete Instagram?
Yeah.
No.
All right, guys. Well, I guess that's it. So I will have this interview out probably Thursday.
Okay.
Yeah, give me a few days to work on it.
Yeah. No, definitely.
I have 2 kids in 2 schools and it gets hectic. Oh my goodness. Yes.
Yeah.
So con eso los dejo, raza. Give them a follow. I guess if you have questions, they'll eventually check their inbox.
Yeah.
Maybe they won't. I don't know. Whatever. It's a crazy world, people. Anyways, have a great rest of your week. Y con eso los dejo, raza. Los adoro. Bye.